The Galactic Accord hires the deadliest alien mercenaries to suppress a rebellion on Karthos Prime, an unruly jungle planet colonized by humans. The mercenaries expect an easy conquest until they face the Revenants, an elite human special forces unit forged in the most hostile environments. What follows is a brutal guerrilla war that changes the course of galactic history. The Vacheron Warborn, a species of heavily armored reptilian mercenaries, had conquered over 100 worlds for the Galactic Accord. To them, Karthos Prime was just another job, another human colony to pacify, another paycheck to collect. The planet, a hostile death world with venomous megafauna, corrosive rain, and gravity 1.4 times standard, had been settled by humans against the Accord's wishes. The Accord solution? Deploy the Warborn and crush the resistance in 1 week. But no one had told the Vacheron who they were really fighting. Colonel Jonas Rourke stood at the edge of the jungle, watching through his augmented visor as the Warborn dropships descended. "These lizards think they're going to waltz in and take Karthos," he muttered. "They have no idea what they just signed up for." The Revenants were not ordinary soldiers. They were survivors of Earth's worst war zones, trained in deep space black ops, and honed by Deathworld survival training. When humanity was outlawed from the Galactic Accord, these warriors disappeared into the void, becoming ghosts, myths spoken in hushed whispers by alien warlords. Now they were back. "We let them land," Rourke said. "Then we remind them why Deathworlders don't lose." The Warborn deployed shock troopers, each standing 8 feet tall, wrapped in thick chitinous armor, armed with plasma repeaters. Their command believed this would be a standard occupation mission. Their first mistake. Their second mistake? Entering the jungle. The first squad was eliminated before they even knew they were under attack. A plasma repeater jammed, and before the Vacheron soldier could react, a serrated knife punched through his throat from behind. The rain muffled human movement, but it amplified the aliens' heat signatures, turning them into walking targets for Revenant snipers. A tripwire mine sent a Warborn officer flying, his armor cracked, his internal organs liquefied. And the jungle itself? The Revenants had trained it to be their ally. Venomous beasts lured into enemy camps, corrosive fungi weaponized, roots collapsed pathways, turning supply lines into death traps. Enemy casualties, 32. Our casualties, 0, whispered Sergeant Nia Patel, checking her HUD. Rourke smirked. "All right, let's get started for real." By day 3, the Warborn were paranoid wrecks. Their armor was useless against acid-filled dart traps. Their plasma weapons malfunctioned due to the humidity. Their supply routes were raided nightly, leaving them starving and weak. Worst of all, they never saw their enemy. Revenants didn't fight wars like the Galactic Accord expected. They fought to annihilate. Reports flooded the Warborn command post. "Something is in the trees. They take us one by one. We shoot at shadows. There are no bodies, just missing soldiers. They don't fight like prey. They fight like predators." The Warborn commander, General Karthos, began to fear the humans. By day 6, the Warborn were no longer warriors. They were hunted animals. Rourke led the final assault at night. The Revenants struck like ghosts, emerging from the darkness with plasma blades, silenced railguns, and exosuits adapted to Karthos' brutal terrain. The Warborn fought like cornered beasts, but it didn't matter. Their commanders fell first, leaving them leaderless. Their dropships exploded on the landing pads, cutting off escape. Their reinforcements never arrived, because the Revenants had jammed Galactic Accord transmissions. At dawn, Karthos stood alone, his forces annihilated. Rourke approached. He didn't even raise his weapon. "This is your only warning," Rourke said, his voice calm. "Tell the Accord. Humans are not to be hunted." Karthos, trembling, nodded. The Revenants vanished into the jungle, leaving behind a battlefield of corpses and silence. Karthos stumbled through the ruins of his own encampment. The jungle had reclaimed what little the Warborn had built. Smoke drifted through the trees, carrying the stench of burning flesh and scorched armor. He was the last survivor. Somehow, he had escaped the Revenants' final attack. Not out of skill, not out of honor, just sheer, mindless survival instinct. The jungle whispered around him, shadows moving where none should be. Every broken branch made his heart pound. He had fought 100 wars, burned a dozen civilizations to ash. But this was not war. This was slaughter. Karthos gritted his fangs and activated his distress beacon. Emergency signal, priority alpha. Location, Karthos Prime. Sender, General Karthos of the Warborn. Message, the Revenants are real. We're compromised. Send immediate extraction. He could only hope the Galactic Accord received it before the ghosts found him again. The Galactic Accord did not take humiliation lightly. The destruction of the Warborn's entire Karthos campaign sent shockwaves through the Senate. 126 dropships, over 15,000 Warborn soldiers. Gone. The Accord had thought of humanity as a pest. They had grossly underestimated Deathworlders. Now, they would correct that mistake. 2 Dreadnought-class warships, 3 carrier fleets, and a battalion of elite Steri Skystalkers, the deadliest trackers in the galaxy, were dispatched to Karthos Prime. The mission was simple. Number 1, recover General Karthos. Number 2, confirm the threat level of the Revenants. Number 3, exterminate every last human on Karthos Prime. This was no longer an occupation. This was eradication. From deep within the jungle, Rourke and his Revenants watched the sky burn. 2 capital ships, multiple transports. The Accord wasn't taking chances this time. Looks like they got our message, Nia Patel muttered, adjusting her rifle's scope. Rourke smirked. Good. We needed more supplies. The Revenants didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. They prepared. Every supply depot was booby-trapped. Every landing zone was compromised. The Galactic Accord had sent an army, but they were walking into a meat grinder. Orders, Colonel? Asked Lieutenant Omar Vasquez, setting up explosives along the jungle perimeter. Rourke cracked his knuckles. We let them land. We let them feel safe. Then we burned them down. The Revenants melted into the shadows. The Steri Skystalkers were infamous. A race of insectoid warriors with ultraviolet vision, acidic blood, and hive-mind combat coordination, they had hunted prey across thousands of worlds. They had never lost a war. Until now. The first Skystalker scout teams moved into the jungle, weapons primed. They lasted 11 minutes. One stepped into a tripwire. His exoskeleton was ripped apart by a kinetic explosive. Another was dragged into the undergrowth, vanishing with a scream. Their commander found himself impaled on a sharpened jungle root planted by human hands. A transmission crackled in the Galactic Accord fleet. Skystalker Unit 1 is not responding. Unit 2 confirmed their status. Wait, something's... Silence. The Skystalkers were gone. The jungle belonged to the Revenants now. Admiral Velker Iseskar, commander of the Accord fleet, watched the disaster unfold from the safety of his dreadnought. This was not possible. The humans were outnumbered 100 to 1. They had no air support, no artillery, no reinforcements. And yet, the fleet was losing. One by one, their ground teams vanished. The jungle was turning against them. Sir, we've lost contact with 3 more units. The Skystalkers are gone, Admiral. There's no trace of them. The Warborn retrieval team, they just went silent too. Velker gritted his mandibles. How? No answer. Then the explosions began. One of their supply transports ignited, fire consuming the landing zone. An entire fuel depot went up next, incinerating dozens of soldiers. The humans were inside their perimeter. And the worst part? They had never even seen them. It took 2 days for the Galactic Accord fleet to break. 2 days of ghost attacks, supply sabotage, and untraceable ambushes. Velker finally gave the order, evacuate. As the ships prepared to leave, a final message hacked into their comms. A human voice, smooth and calm. Karthos Prime is ours. Humanity is not prey. If you return, you'll not escape next time. The Revenants had hijacked their own fleet systems. The message was broadcast across the entire Galactic Accord. An entire war fleet defeated by a handful of Deathworlders. The Accord never recovered from the humiliation. The Galactic Accord quarantined Karthos Prime. No one spoke of the Revenants. But across the stars, mercenaries, warlords, and empires whispered in fear. The jungle planet had become a legend, a place where entire armies vanished. And the Revenants? They were still there, watching, waiting. The ghosts of Karthos Prime. The failure at Karthos Prime rippled across the galaxy like a shockwave. The Galactic Accord, once untouchable, once unshakable, now sat in silence as news of the Revenant massacre spread. Entire civilizations whispered about the Deathworlders who had shattered the Accord's pride. No one had ever seen an entire invasion force routed by so few. No one had ever seen the Accord retreat. For the first time in history, the galactic powers faced a terrifying reality. Humanity wasn't just dangerous. They were untouchable. Admiral Velker Iseskar, the man responsible for the greatest military disaster in Accord history, was dragged before the Senate of High Command. The chamber was silent as the Supreme Chancellor, a towering Sephri noble with cold, bulbous eyes, studied the broken warlord before him. "Explain," he hissed. Velker swallowed hard. He had fought 1,000 battles. He had never known fear. Until now. They weren't human. Not anymore, he muttered. They were shadows. Hunters. Predators. Velker's hands trembled as he recalled the jungle. The whispers in the dark. The feeling of being watched. "I sent an army," he said, his voice cracking. "And the jungle ate them." The Supreme Chancellor leaned forward. "And how many humans fought against you?" Velker's throat tightened. "Less than 30. The chamber erupted into chaos. Impossible. No species could. They must have had reinforcements. Velker clenched his fists. "No," he said. "It was them. Just them." And then he spoke the words that would change everything. "They're not soldiers," he whispered. "There's something else." The chamber fell, deathly silent. Because for the first time in history, the Galactic Accord finally understood. Deathworlders weren't just a threat. They were a force of nature. The Galactic Accord could not afford to show weakness. They had one option left: annihilation. 3 weeks after the Karthos massacre, the Senate authorized Project Final Dawn. The plan? Deploy the Dreadforged, the Accord's most feared war machine, a fully automated fleet of extermination AI. Send no biological soldiers, only machines immune to fear, illusions, and guerrilla warfare. Glass Karthos Prime from orbit. If the Revenants couldn't be hunted, they would be erased. Velker, despite his disgrace, was ordered to oversee the operation. Destroy the Revenants. Burn the jungle. Make an example of the Deathworlders. He was given a single directive: no more human ghosts. The Accord's final war against humanity had begun. Deep in the jungle, Colonel Jonas Rourke studied the incoming fleet. The sky was filled with war machines. No life signs. No soldiers. Just drones. Killbots. Extermination units. Patel whistled. "They really don't want to fight us in person again." Huh. Omar Vasquez smirked. "Guess they learned." But Rourke's face was stone cold. "This isn't a battle," he muttered. "It's a purge." For the first time, the Revenants were not fighting a living enemy. They were fighting machines, relentless, efficient, and immune to fear. But fear had never been their greatest weapon. It was adaptation. Rourke looked at the ruins of the Accord's failed invasion force. Wrecked dropships, abandoned plasma weapons, shattered tech. A plan formed in his mind. "They think we're just soldiers." He grinned. "Time to show them we're engineers, too." The Revenants moved, and the machines were not ready. The Dreadforged descended like a plague, their orbital weapons scorching the jungles of Karthos. But the Revenants were already inside them. Accord weapons were hacked and reprogrammed. AI drones were infected with a Deathworld virus. The jungle fed false heat signatures, making enemy targeting useless. The machines were designed to kill organics. But what happened when the organics became the virus? Primary target eliminated. Wait, something's wrong. AI corruption detected. Error, error, error. Entire battalions of killbots turned on each other. Orbital warships misfired, glassing their own fleets. In the heart of the battle, Velker watched in horror as his unstoppable war machines collapsed from the inside. They had never fought Deathworlders before, and they never would again. When the dust settled, Karthos Prime still stood. The jungle burned, but it lived. The Revenants, the ghosts of war, were still there. Velker ISS Car stood aboard his flagship, broken and defeated. The fleet was in shambles. Then his comms crackled. A voice. A human voice. You should have left us alone. Velker's blood ran cold. This is your last warning. We are not prey. We are not weak. We are not your conquest. A long silence. Then, if you come for us again, we will come for you. The channel cut out. Velker's claws trembled, because deep in his soul, he knew the Revenants were not just defending Karthos anymore. They were preparing for war. The Galactic Accord tried to erase the records of Karthos Prime, but the universe remembered. Across the galaxy, warlords, pirate kings, and mercenary empires whispered of the Deathworlders who could not be conquered. They called them Revenants. They called them ghosts. But humanity had a different name for them. The first human army. And Karthos Prime? It was no longer a colony. It was no longer a battleground. It was a fortress. And soon, it would be the staging ground for humanity's first war of expansion. The Galactic Accord had spent centuries waging wars of conquest, but they had never fought a species like humanity. Because humans don't just survive. They adapt. They evolve. And after Karthos Prime, humanity was done hiding. It was time to strike back. Deep in the ruins of an abandoned orbital station, a secret meeting took place. Jonas Rourke stood at the center of a dimly lit chamber, flanked by his Revenant commanders. Around them, holographic feeds flickered, representing Deathworlder leaders from across the scattered human colonies. This was the first gathering of the Revenant Council. A council with only one purpose. In the Galactic Accord. This war isn't just about Karthos anymore, Rourke began. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with the fire of a man who had seen too much war to ever stop fighting. They didn't just try to conquer us. They tried to erase us. He turned, gazing at the faces of his fellow warriors. We won't let them. Silence. Then, General Vasquez stepped forward. What's the plan? Rourke exhaled. Then he smiled. The Revenants were about to go on the offensive. The Galactic Accord was still recovering from the humiliation of Karthos Prime. Fleets were being repaired. New generals were being promoted. Warlords debated whether humanity should be eradicated or contained. But none of them expected what happened next. Because humans didn't wait for the next invasion. They brought the war to the Accord. 3 Galactic Accord supply convoys gone. A heavily fortified border station, hacked and disabled. A secret Accord research facility, leveled by orbital kinetic strikes. And the worst part? Not a single human body was found. Just a single message, burned into the metal of every destroyed ship, every broken station. We are coming. The Galactic Accord panicked. They had never faced an enemy like this. They had expected rebels, terrorists, insurgents. Instead, they had awakened a species bred for war. The Galactic Accord had stood for 1,000 years. But in the span of 6 months, humanity had driven a knife into its heart. The warlords who once saw the Accord as invincible began to doubt. Some whispered of alliances with the Deathworlders. Others demanded an all-out extermination campaign. And others? They just wanted to survive. The once mighty Accord was cracking from the inside, exactly what the Revenants wanted. In the void of deep space, a hidden research station pulsed with activity. Project Revenant was complete. Rourke and his team stood inside a massive hangar bay, staring up at humanity's greatest creation. The Ghost Fleet, experimental stealth drives that could evade even the most advanced tracking systems. Adaptive AI battle systems designed to counter any alien strategy. Plasma-laced railguns capable of shredding even the largest Accord dreadnoughts. Humanity had reverse-engineered the Galactic Accord's own technology. And now, they were going to use it against them. Rourke turned to his crew. This is it, he said. The Revenants had fought from the shadows for too long. Now, they were going to burn the Accord to the ground. The planet Eshtan was an Accord stronghold, a military capital protected by the best defenses in the galaxy. No one had ever attacked it before. Until now, the Ghost Fleet emerged from void space, undetected until it was too late. The Revenants didn't send a warning. They didn't negotiate. They didn't ask for surrender. They simply opened fire. Orbital defense platforms collapsed in seconds. Accord fleets were ripped apart by railgun barges. Shock troopers landed, tearing through enemy fortifications. The battle lasted 8 hours. At the end of it, Eshtan was in flames. And for the first time in history, the Galactic Accord had lost one of its own core worlds. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for dominion. The Galactic Accord had ruled for millennia. It would not last another decade. The loss of Eshtan sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Accord allies began defecting. Border worlds rose up in rebellion. Warlords turned on each other, seeking to claim what they could before the Empire collapsed. The Revenants didn't just win battles. They shattered the Accord from the inside. And soon, humanity would take its place as the new power of the galaxy. Rourke stood on the bridge of the Ghost Fleet's flagship, watching as the stars burned. The war wasn't over yet, but the outcome was clear. The Galactic Accord had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated humanity. Now, humanity would rise. Humanity would rule. And the galaxy would never be the same.